You are listening to StoryMakers, the podcast for women who are ready to step into their true identity, live with meaningful purpose, find belonging and connection, grow in leadership, and walk boldly in faith. Here you can uncover the story that you were created to live because you were made for such a time as this. Welcome back to the StoryMakers Show. Today we're talking about poison or power narratives that shape what's happening in our lives today. So knowing the narrative that you live from will drastically shift what's possible for you and the results that you create, the legacy that you live. And we're going to talk about the poison and the power that is readily available depending on whether or not you're living by default or intentionally, and whether or not you are aware of what's actually happening in your paradigm, what you really believe and think. So poisonous narratives are the quiet, sneaky, root-level beliefs that we've been carrying around for decades, and they feel true even if they're not. We believe they're true. We get confirmation by everything else that happens in our lives. We will allow, our brain looks for confirmation of what it believes. So we'll actually allow the poison to stay there and sow itself into everything in our lives because our brain is looking for confirmation of what it already believes and thinks it knows, right? So in my coaching practice, we call these poison thoughts, and they're sneaky because they, it's not like they're standing on the side of the road in front, like the sign in front of the pizza place or the oil change, or it's not in a neon sign. They're living deep down in the paradigm of our soul. And they've been there so long, we just accept them as truth. But something, just because it feels true doesn't make it actually true, and it definitely doesn't make it truth. So a poison thought sounds like, I am not wanted, special, taken care of. I'm not free. I'm disconnected. I'm powerless. All of these kinds of things that our childhood brain developed these belief systems to explain what was happening in the world around us because we couldn't understand. So we decided upon these things as we were trying to figure out life. And the wild thing is that we often end these beliefs with the word enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not special enough. Our brains, our human souls lean towards comparison. So there's expectations we didn't even know we had. And the thing is that these narratives and thoughts, they're not just background noise. They actually are shaping everything in our lives. So now that you realize how your paradigm influences your emotions, then your actions and the results and legacy, you can see how this happens. And the poison thoughts create these little spider thoughts, little branches that spin out and create a whole web of stories. Like if I believe I'm unimportant, I'll start to think little spider thoughts of people don't listen to me. They don't care what I say. Why do I even try? And suddenly my actions start aligning with that belief. Even if I say I don't want to live that way, I can't help but live that way because I believe it. I remember when I uncovered one of the deepest root thoughts and how hard it really hit me that I am not important. And this definitely developed in my childhood. And it wrecked me when I realized it because I had already done so much work around healing and truth and transformation, but then I found it. And it was still growing underground. It was still bearing bitter and poisonous fruit. And this lie makes me very angry because I do believe I'm important and I do believe I'm seen and known and loved in my mind and in my spirit. But when that poison gets triggered, it flows fast through the veins of my soul, and it tries to convince me that no matter what truth I say I believe, that the lie is actually more powerful. Because that's the thing about poison. It is persuasive. It sounds like protection and it feels very familiar, but it's really deadly. So, okay, what do we do about this? First, we have to become aware of it. We have to notice, self-leadership 101. We don't have to fix all of these things at once, but you do have to start becoming aware and start asking yourself, is this thought, is this belief poison or power? Does it fuel my life or does it drain it? Is it helping me to create the legacy I desire or is it pulling me down? Pulling me away from my true identity, my purpose, my calling. And then secondly, when we recognize what it is, we bring it to the Lord without shame, no condemnation or judgment. We're just being honest. We bring it to the foot of the cross and say, what truth would you trade me for this? That is the great exchange, which is like doing a soul detox. It is freedom when you get honest and you come to the Lord to allow Him to give you truth in exchange for your honesty. Then I'll say that the power thoughts that we are going to exchange, that we're going to replace the poison thoughts with, they don't just magically appear. You actually choose them. You get to receive them. Some of them you actually create, and some God will whisper. Some are going to come from scripture, from friends, or maybe you read something that resonates for you. Don't dismiss these moments because they really matter. Power thoughts align with God's truth and they support you. They motivate you and lift you up, and they help you build something meaningful in your life, not just for you, but for other people, because when you live from power, you empower others. So I want to give you examples of poison narratives that you might have believed from your childhood on, and a power narrative that you can choose to trade it for. So if you have a poison narrative, I'm not wanted. A power narrative would be, I am desired by God and placed on purpose. There is a seat for me at the table, and people want me at the table. If you have a poison narrative that I'm not loved, a power narrative is, I am deeply loved with an everlasting love that does not change based on performance or anything else I do. I'm just loved right where I am. If your poison narrative is, I'm not worthy, power narrative says, my worth is rooted in who God says I am, not what I've done or what others think. Poison narrative, I'm not special. The power narrative is, I am uniquely created, intentionally designed, and I carry something nobody else can offer. Poison narrative, I'm not competent. The power narrative is, I have been equipped with wisdom, skills, and the ability to learn and grow. People want what I have. The poison narrative, I'm not capable. Well, the power narrative is, I can do hard things through Christ who strengthens me, and I am more capable than I feel. Which I think is really powerful to say. Like, I might not feel this, but it's true. If your poison narrative is, I'm not secure or safe, your power narrative can be, God is my refuge and strength. I am held, protected. I am surrounded, even if I'm afraid. If your poison narrative is, I'm not taken care of, the power narrative is, God sees every need and provides faithfully. I'm not forgotten and I'm not overlooked. Poison narrative is, I'm not free. Well, the power narrative is, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And I am not bound by fear or shame or anything else. Add to that, whatever you struggle with, whatever you face. If your poison narrative is, I'm powerless, then the power narrative is, I have authority in Christ. The Word says so. And my choices, my voice, and my presence carry real power. And that's not a bad thing. No matter what your culture, society, gender, whatever says, power, when it's in alignment with Christ, is a good, healthy thing. If your poison narrative is, I can't find peace, your power narrative is, peace actually lives within me because Jesus lives within me and I can access it at any moment. And you can actually learn how to do this. Peace is a fruit of the Spirit. So it's actually residing within your spirit, not necessarily your soul. So you can access it in that spirit, the spirit part of you, versus thinking that you have to create peace or make peace. If your poison narrative is I'm disconnected, power narrative says I am connected to God, most of all, and I'm worthy of meaningful connection with others. If your poison narrative is I don't matter, your power narrative can be my life has meaning, my presence carries weight, I was created to make an impact. But I want you to know all of these things are more than just mindset. They're like, you actually have to care for your soul here. The heart's not just your emotions. It's all of your soul. It holds your beliefs and thoughts and values and your will and your imagination. And it's very vulnerable and it needs guarding. Guard your heart. It needs to be tended to. Galatians 5:9 says that it only takes a little leaven to leaven the whole lump. So just a little poison can change everything. And you know this, it doesn't take but one undercooked chicken nugget in the whole order to make you sick, no matter what sauce you dip it in. So you have to watch and stay awake. And that's why Jesus says to watch and pray. Is why Peter says to be sober-minded and alert, because the enemy wants to sneak in a lie and twist your whole story. But you don't have to let him. And now you know what he's trying to do. You're aware of what his plan is. And you can trade the poison in for power. You can reclaim and rewrite a new narrative with God as your co-author. That's what we're doing here in this podcast, in this community, and in those quiet times in your own heart. We're in the process, we're on the journey to become true story makers with the Lord. Not because we're perfect, we're polished, or we're done with our healing. It's just because we're choosing to pay attention and be intentional, and choosing to get honest, tell the truth, and seek the truth. And we're choosing to partner with the Spirit of God, who gives us power, love, and a sound mind. Not power to control other people, power over them, but power to be changed and transformed by the renewing of our minds. So your invitation today, your challenge, is to identify the poison that's impacting you, the narrative that's undermining your life. Trace it to the root. Name the spider thoughts that are coming off of it, and then ask God, what power does he want to give you in exchange? What's the power narrative that you can live from? Write it down. Put it in front of you everywhere. Start meditating on that instead of meditating on the old things that you've believed for decades. You were not made to carry poison. It's making you sick in your soul and in your body. It's quenching the spirit. So you were made to carry glory and reveal the character and nature of God, and you were made to walk in power, and your story's not over. So start waking up to what's happening in your soul, get honest, and stay close to the one who makes all of the things new and all the things possible.
Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to the show so you don't miss any new episodes. And to learn more about me, my work, and how we can connect, visit sterlingandstonementoring.com or check the show notes. And until next time, remember, all things are possible and figure-outable.